It all started like any other ordinary evening. I came home from work, expecting the usual quiet and comfort, but instead, I was met with a scene that shattered everything I thought I knew. She was my wife here, caught in a moment I never imagined I'd witness. The betrayal was raw, real, and it hit me like a punch to the gut. I'm not here to just tell you about cheating or heartbreak. This story is about what happened after the pain, the anger, the confusion, and ultimately, my journey toward forgiveness and redemption. You might be wondering, how does someone even begin to forgive something like this? How do you face the woman you love, the person you trusted with your whole heart, after finding out she was unfaithful? That's exactly what I struggled with, and I want to take you through that difficult path with me. This isn't just a story about a cheating wife, it's about the messy, complicated human emotions that come after the truth is revealed, and the choices we make when everything feels like it's falling apart. I'll be honest, when I first caught her, my world stopped. The silence was deafening, and my mind raced through 1,000 questions. Was it just a mistake? Had I missed the signs? Could we ever come back from this? But it wasn't just about what happened in that moment. It was about what came next, how we both faced the consequences of those actions and tried to find a way forward. The journey wasn't easy, and it wasn't quick. It involved a lot of pain and some very uncomfortable conversations. In this video, I want to share the real story behind the headlines we all see so often but rarely get to hear with this much honesty. There's no sugarcoating here, just the raw truth of how a relationship breaks down and what it takes to try and rebuild it. The emotions I felt were intense hurt, anger, confusion, but also a flicker of hope that maybe forgiveness was possible. But could it really be? And if so, what did redemption even look like for us? I'm not here to judge or to cast blame. This is about understanding the human side of things, how mistakes are made, how trust is broken, and how sometimes, despite everything, people want to try again. The people involved in this story aren't perfect, they're flawed, just like anyone else. And sometimes, life forces us to confront our flaws in the hardest ways possible. So, as I share what happened that night and the weeks that followed, I want you to think about what forgiveness means to you. Is it something that can heal the deepest wounds, or is some damage too great to repair? By the end of this video, you'll see how things were left hanging in the balance, and uncertain, painful, but full of the possibility that maybe, just maybe, there's a way to find peace again. Stay with me as I take you through the moments that changed everything, moments that tested everything I believed in about love and loyalty. The story is far from over, and what happened next will surprise you. You'll have to watch the next part to find out if forgiveness truly won or if the cracks were too deep to mend. After that night, everything changed. Before the betrayal, life felt simple, even if it wasn't perfect. We had routines, plans, and dreams of things most couples take for granted. I thought we were building something solid, something that would last. But beneath the surface, there were cracks I didn't see, or maybe I just didn't want to see. Now, looking back, I realize how little I knew about what was really happening in her mind, or even in mine. For years, we had been together, sharing good times, struggling through the bad. We laughed, traveled, and made promises. But like many couples, we also had moments of silence, misunderstandings, and distance. Sometimes, I felt like we were drifting, but I told myself it was normal, that love was about sticking together through the ups and downs. I never imagined the distance was growing into a wall. I won't lie, the moment I caught her, it felt like that wall came crashing down all at once. It wasn't just the act itself, but the fact that it had been happening in secret. I kept asking myself why she felt the need to look elsewhere, why she couldn't talk to me, why she didn't come to me first when things got hard. I was flooded with questions that didn't have easy answers. But what confused me even more was how I still cared about her. How I could feel so hurt and yet still want to understand her side of the story. I think that's where the real conflict started inside me. Between the anger and the love, it made everything complicated. I found myself wondering if this was a breaking point or a chance to fix something deeper. Was this the end, or just the hardest part of the journey? There were moments when I wanted to scream, to run away and never look back. Other times, I just wanted to sit in silence and try to make sense of the chaos. Our conversations became heavy, full of accusations, tears, and silence that said more than words ever could. Trust was broken, but there was still something fragile trying to hold on. As the days went by, I realized that this wasn't just about what happened in that one moment. It was about everything that led up to it and everything we still had to face. The secrets, the lies, the pain, they all formed a complicated web, and somewhere in that mess, I had to decide what my next step would be. Could we find a way to rebuild from here? Or was this the final chapter of a story that had already run its course? The answers weren't clear, and every choice felt like walking on thin ice. What I did know is that forgiveness wouldn't come easier and redemption would be a longer road than I ever imagined. But I was ready to try, even if the outcome was still uncertain. As the days turned into weeks, the weight of what I had seen didn't lighten. It was like living with a shadow that followed me everywhere. I kept replaying that moment in my mind, but what made it harder was all the moments before it, the little signs I missed, the quiet distance between us that I tried to ignore. I began to realize that the problem wasn't just the cheating itself, it was everything that led us there. Our communication had broken down, and underneath the surface, we both had our own struggles that we never really talked about. She had always seemed distant lately, caught up in work and her own thoughts, and I guess I had done the same. Maybe we were both running from something we didn't want to face. Sometimes I wondered if she was as unhappy as I was, or if she had just stopped caring. But then, every time I tried to bring it up, the conversation would shut down or turn into an argument. That silence between us became its own kind of betrayal. Meanwhile, I was trying to keep things together on the outside: work, family, friends, but inside, I felt like I was falling apart. The hardest part wasn't just the betrayal itself, it was the uncertainty. Could I trust her again? Could we rebuild what we lost? I found myself questioning everything: my judgment, my feelings, even my own worth. There was also this other voice in my head, a small but persistent doubt about who I really was in all of this. Had I missed signs because I was too caught up in my own world? Was there something I could have done differently? The blame was confusing, partly hers, partly mine, but mostly, it was the broken pieces between us. And while all of this was happening, life didn't pause. We had to keep facing each other every day, with everything unsaid hanging heavy between us. The story wasn't just about the cheating anymore, it was about the struggle to find a way back through the mess, if that was even possible. The hardest part was yet to come. Every day felt like walking on a thin line, unsure of when everything might finally break. We were living in the same house but feeling worlds apart. Conversations were clipped, filled with tension and unspoken pain. The trust that once held us together was now fragile, so delicate that even the smallest word or glance could set off a storm. I found myself watching her, trying to read her expressions, searching for any sign of honesty or regret. But sometimes, all I saw was confusion, or worse, avoidance. There were moments when I wanted to confront her again, to demand answers and clarity, but fear stopped me. Fear that I'd hear things I couldn't take back, or that the distance between us would become permanent. I was stuck in this limbo, trapped between the past that hurt me and a future I didn't know if I wanted to fight for. The house felt heavy with silence, and every night I lay awake wondering if this was the end of us. At the same time, I wrestled with my own heart. Part of me wanted to shut everything down, walk away, and never look back. But another part was desperate to understand, to find some meaning or reason behind the pain. Could forgiveness even be real after something like this? Was it possible for us to heal, or were we just fooling ourselves? Then came the moment I knew everything was about to change. The night when all the tension, the secrets, and the doubts finally exploded. We had reached a breaking point, and there was no hiding from the truth anymore. The words that were said, the tears that fell, and the silence that followed, it all felt like the climax of a story I never wanted to live through but couldn't escape. What happened next would decide everything. Would this be the moment where we finally faced the cracks in our relationship, or the moment it all fell apart? The answer was still unknown, hanging in the air like a question without reply. Just when I thought I had reached the lowest point, something happened that flipped everything upside down again. After that intense night where the truth came crashing down between us, I thought at least we were finally being honest. I believed that facing the pain head-on would bring some clarity, maybe even a chance to start healing. But instead, a new secret began to surface here, one I never saw coming. It started with small things: a missed call here, a strange message there that didn't add up. I tried to brush it off, telling myself maybe I was just being paranoid, that the tension was making me see shadows where there weren't any. But deep down, something didn't feel right. The fragile thread of trust that was left started to unravel even faster. Then one evening, as I was going through my phone, a message popped up, one that wasn't meant for me, but it was there all the same. It wasn't just about the cheating anymore. There was another layer I hadn't known about. A connection to someone else, someone new, someone I never expected. It was like discovering a hidden door in a house I thought I knew inside and out. That moment shattered what little piece I had been clinging to. Suddenly, the betrayal felt deeper, more complicated. It wasn't just about the night I caught Hira. It was about everything that had been happening in secret, the lies, the double life I had no clue about. I realized that this wasn't just a one-time mistake, it was a pattern, and it brought up questions I wasn't sure I wanted to ask. The stakes were higher than ever. It wasn't just about whether I could forgive one act, it was about whether I could face the truth of who she really was, and what kind of future, if any, we could have together. Every conversation became more charged, every glance heavier with unspoken accusations. I felt like I was losing grip on the person I thought I loved. But even in the middle of this chaos, part of me still wanted answers, still hoped for some kind of redemption. Could there be a way to rebuild after discovering such deep wounds? Or was this second betrayal the final blow that would break us for good? The tension kept rising, and I knew the next steps would be the hardest yet. The story was no longer just about infidelity. It had become a test of trust, truth, and whether love could survive when everything else seemed lost. What came next would change everything once again, but I wasn't ready to face it just yet. The night I confronted her about the new discovery was the most intense moment of my life. I remember sitting across from her, the room heavy with tension and words left unsaid for far too long. My heart was pounding, and every part of me wanted to turn away, but I forced myself to stay. I needed the truth, no matter how painful it was. When I finally asked about the message and the secrets she'd been hiding, the look in her eyes told me this was bigger than either of us had admitted. She broke down, tears falling as she explained everything, how the betrayal wasn't just a mistake but a sign of struggles she'd been facing alone. The new connection wasn't another affair, but someone she turned to when she felt completely lost. Someone who listened when I hadn't, someone who made her question everything about us. Hearing her say that hurt in ways I never expected, but it also made me realize how far apart we had drifted without really knowing it. For the first time, we talked openly, and no lies, no hiding. We shared the fears and disappointments that had been building up for months. It wasn't easy, and it didn't fix everything overnight, but it was a start. In that moment, I understood forgiveness wouldn't be simple or immediate. It would take time, effort, and a willingness to face uncomfortable truths together. Just when I thought we might be on the path to healing, the final twist hit me like a shockwave. As we were clearing up the mess of the past weeks, she hesitated and then admitted something else, something I never saw coming. The whole situation wasn't just about us. There was someone else involved, but not in the way I expected. It was someone from my own past, someone I thought was gone from my life for good. Suddenly, the story was no longer just about betrayal and forgiveness. It was tangled with secrets that linked both of us in ways I never imagined. It forced me to question everything again, not just about her, but about myself. This unexpected twist didn't just change the ending, it changed the whole story. So, what happens next? Can trust really be rebuilt after all this? Or is some damage beyond repair? The answers aren't simple, and the journey isn't over. But for now, this is where our story stands, at the edge of the unknown, where forgiveness meets a truth more complicated than either of us ever expected. After that final revelation, the weight of everything between us felt heavier than ever, but somehow also clearer. The tangled secrets, the betrayals, the pain of it all led to a moment where we had to decide what we wanted moving forward. For the first time in a long time, We weren't just reacting to wounds or hiding behind silence. We were facing the truth together, even if it was messy and uncomfortable. I realized forgiveness wasn't about forgetting or pretending things never happened. It was about accepting the reality, owning the pain, and choosing whether to let it define us or let it change us. We both has made mistakes, a big honest, but that didn't mean the end of everything we built. What mattered was what came next, the effort to rebuild trust brick by brick, with honesty as the foundation. The person from my past, the unexpected twist in all this, forced me to look inward too. It wasn't just about her actions or my feelings, it was about understanding myself better, facing my own mistakes, and growing from them. Sometimes the hardest truths come from the places you least expect. This story wasn't just about a cheating wife caught in the act, it was about two imperfect people trying to find a way back from the edge. We chose to seek help, counseling, long talks, and a commitment to be more present for each other. It wasn't easy, and there were setbacks, but slowly, the walls between us started to come down. The journey to forgiveness and redemption didn't happen overnight, but with patience and courage, we began to heal. Looking back, I know this experience changed me forever. It showed me the fragility of love, but also its strength when nurtured with truth and effort. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this story, it's that forgiveness is possible even in the darkest moments, and redemption starts with facing the pain, not running from it. Our story isn't perfect or simple, but it's real. And maybe that's enough, because in the end, love isn't about never falling, it's about learning how to get back up together.